Welcome to Nebraska, another state. All right, time to add another state. So we can add Nebraska to the list here, or to the map. There we go, another state. I'm right about there. Morning, YouTube. Well, today I am at Fort Robinson in Nebraska, which is a new state for me. This was established, there was a treaty with the Sioux to have an agency near here, and they sent out Army troops to guard that. Shortly after that, they moved them here to this site. And this is where the Red Cloud Agency was. This particular fort is noteworthy for a number of things. This was as I showed it, it's a huge fort, as you'll see. But there's, this is where Crazy Horse surrendered in May of 1877. And where he was killed trying to escape, because that's the story, 5 months later, almost to the day. So there's that. There's also, okay, this is the spot, Crazy Horse. The chief was killed September 5th, 1877, about 6 months after he or actually 4 months after he surrendered. So this is the actual spot. Now, one thing to note is that what the white people call the Battle of Wounded Knee, which, come on, it was a murder and a massacre. Happened not that far from here. This being the regimental headquarters would have been a supply spot for that, for the 7th Cavalry, who reconstructed 7th Cavalry, that went up there and did that. The 9th and 10th Cavalry that were stationed here, they had nothing to do with it other than being a supply depot. But this was a supply and staging area for that. I did tour the regimental headquarters where I was just talking in front of. They wanted to charge a $3 admission fee for that building, and I am already paying a lot just to stay here. Well, not a lot, but it was $13 for a tent site, because I don't really need electric. I got the solar. Was able to stop at a dump station, fill up with water, so I'm good. Tent site was $13. An RV site would have been $20. And then, because I don't have a Nebraska Parks sticker on my window, that was another $8 for one day. So instead of costing me $13, it cost me $21. If I didn't need the water, I would have said forget it, but it was time for me to tank up. So, oh well. So anyway, I didn't do that, but there's a few free places that I'm going to check out, and we'll check this one out first. And so this building is made of adobe. It dates back to when the fort was first completed as became a cavalry regimental headquarters in 1887. And this section we're going to go through would have been one officer's quarters. So let's go on and take a look. So we received guests in this hall. They would have had trophies up, like the antelope mount that they have there. Maybe there would have been a card here, because the 1890s, 1880s, 1890s, it was very formal how, you know, you greeted people. You'd have a calling card, you present the calling card and it would be presented whether, you know, and then come in. So this is where guests would be greeted. Then they might be taken into the parlor, which is pretty interesting. I mean, the horn chair over there is different, but you would have had the organ, and all these fixtures, all these furnishings would have been owned by that particular officer. And through the door there, that's the master bedroom. Can't quite see, maybe I can get a peek in from outside, but a lot of times, if an officer was transferred, he wouldn't take all this. It would cost a lot to ship all these things. So he would probably have a sale, and a lot of incoming officers might buy some of his furnishings, and then he'd get to the new post and buy new. And a little bit better look at the master bedroom. Pretty nice bed there. So I don't know if you could see it back in behind the master bedroom where there's the picture in the bowl and all that. Well, this place was sort of unique, is that one officer's wife in her journal wrote that there was running water in the officers' places. Like, we're talking late 1800s and literally middle of nowhere to a lot of these people. So running water out here, she said it was the first time she had seen that on any of the posts that they'd been sent to. So modern technology. And back off of the master bedroom back there would have been a child's room here. And see some of the toys and blocks, and that rocking horse dates back. It was a Christmas gift to a local child back in 1892. So that's pretty cool, the shape that that's still in. One of the things is, see with this hall, with this door open here and the door open in the back, you would have had a nice airflow through. The thick adobe walls would have kept things nice and cool in the summer and help insulate it in the wintertime. And they did eat formally here in the dining room. What's sort of interesting is that the high chair here could be converted to a stroller. And this would have been the kitchen, of course. And sort of neat with the egg safe back there. Nice wood stove. And back in behind that would have been the servants' quarters. So you see the servants' quarters are much more utilitarian. Often the families that hire a young unmarried girl, keep house, cook the meals, take care of the children. A lot of times doing sewing, which is why the sewing machine there. And most of these girls, this would give them better prospects with all of the troops. I'm sure with all the guys here, they were very popular, and quite a few of them ended up marrying troops or troopers that were here. So when you think of a fort in the West, what do you think of? You think of the wooden palisade around it. It's sort of like what was around part of Fort Casper, but that wasn't always the case. As you can see here, I mean, this place is huge. There was no way they'd have a stockade around the whole place. You know, you got the cliffs in the background and river over that way. Basically, they really were open places like this, but with many hundreds of troops here and all looking out for danger. They were pretty well protected. They didn't really need those barricades. So one of the other things that they had here, besides the POW camp during World War II, is 1942 till 49. this was where they trained the war dogs. So quite a history of varied use for this particular facility. You know, if you do come here, you can take a Jeep tour. You can take and rent bikes, horseback riding. So there's a lot of other ways to see this than just wandering about like I am. Now, on the grounds of the fort, there's a natural history museum. So I'm gonna check this out because they have something that I haven't never seen. I don't think there's any other like it, but it's not this. This is like a gazelle camel, so related to the camel, but so these bones are from a water hole 19 million years ago, and a lot of these here were like this. It was a North American rhino. So even though the rhino is pretty cool, and I hadn't seen one before, that's not the big special thing. Neither is this fossilized burrow with a beaver skeleton in it, and sort of spiraled up to the surface. And the beavers weren't like the pond dwelling ones, they were more grassland. So Nebraska used to be under an inland sea way back when, and that's the skull of a Mosasaurus, which they're calling one of the deadly killers, or, you know, I wouldn't want to meet up with them. Okay, so now the special thing that is housed here is back during an ice age, two bull mammoths fought and got their tusks intertwined and died. I mean, you may have seen pictures of deer where one's died and the victor was still tangled up, couldn't get away. It's that same kind of thing. But in 1962, saw a couple bones sticking out, and they started to excavate a mammoth, and which is a complete skeleton is back there on the wall, so you can sort of get or in the middle, so you sort of get an idea how big it is. And what they did was they excavated that whole thing, brought it here. As they kept going, they got to the skull, and they found out, wait a minute, there's 4 sets of tusks, there's more skulls, there's a whole other mammoth. So none have ever been found like this anywhere else. That one up there is one of them, and what they did was they took the skulls, different skull, and the bones from the second mammoth and moved it over to make this diorama. So this isn't actually what they found, although the bones and all but one of the skulls is. Let me get over and we'll get a closer look at the one. They were both in their mid-40s, so they lived quite a long time before they were dueled to the death. Okay, thing before I finish, that full mammoth skeleton, that skull on it is actually a reproduction of one of the skulls, because they were so fragile, they didn't want to try to untangle them. So the skulls in the diorama are actually as they were found. And they took the bones, the left side bones from one and put it on the other side, so it would, basically they used half the bones from one to make it look like the other one was there, because they used the rest of the bones to do it. So 99% of that is there. So get an idea just how big a mammoth was. This is the only complete skeleton of one I've ever seen. I've run across the skulls of them, but never a complete skeleton, much less two that were locked in battle. This is probably a better view of the mammoth skeleton. This is the only complete mammoth skeleton I have ever seen. I've seen skulls here and there, but never a complete skeleton, much less two that were locked in a duel to the death. So, alright, so that ends my tour of Fort Robinson. Gotta go back to the bus, staying there in the campground, and bisected by Route 20. So, tomorrow morning, I'm headed east down 20. So, see you later, YouTube. So one of the interesting things about this campground is I'm back in the tent only area because I don't need hookup. I have the solar and self-contained, but they didn't put a bridge or a culvert or anything across this particular little creek. It's not deep, but it's sort of interesting that you have to ford it with your vehicle to get over to your campsite. But there is at least a nice thick flank walking bridge, and it's not that deep.